Someone actually told me that I had to watch this right after. It's a video saying Helluva Boss Season 2 isn't working because someone's complaining about Season 2, and I personally really like Season 2 so far. So I want to see what the main complaint is. It's a good vid. I hope so. I'm curious.
Hello and welcome to the Dire Gentleman channel. My name is Gus Zagarella.
And I'm Henry Galley, and today we're here to discuss the latest episode of Helluva Boss, which is quickly becoming the Big Bang Theory of Vtube.
Yeah, see,
That is such a bad take! What? Oh my god, do I actually have to watch this whole video? There's no shot that you're gonna start a video calling Helluva Boss the Big Bang Theory of YouTube.
If you know this channel, you know that we've covered Helluva Boss for a while in the past. Ever since its inception, there was a time that we were really rooting for this show. And then it kept being released, and the things that we initially liked about the show sort of fell away in favor of a series of persistent flaws, which we outlined in our last major video on the series, and are more present here in this episode than perhaps they've ever been.
I feel like their complaint is gonna be that they don't want a serialized story. They just want imps killing each other. Like, there's no way that the argument is that lukewarm, right? See, I think these two episodes are the best episodes in the series, but I do think episode 1 and 3 of season 2 were really good. See, I think episode 3 of season 2 might be the third best episode of all. So I don't really feel like there was a fall off.
We're not going to waste too much of your time on this one. It's so funny because this show has really speedrun the kind of somnambulistic seasonal rot that it typically takes shows sort of 3 or 4 seasons to get into, when it just feels like they're going through the motions, playing the hits, giving us kind of dull, flattened versions of popular characters that they know the kind of die-hard, heavily parasocial fans will headcanon into some kind of interest or intrigue.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that really the take? That they're playing into tropes just like for fan service? I didn't feel like these were fan servicey. When you're writing a show, you want to round out the characters, and I feel like stuff like episode 3 really, and 1, really rounded out the characters.
Shade at all to Edward Bosco. You know, he does great work, talented guy. But in order to bring back the Stryker character, to just like write him into this episode without the Norman Reedus, it just feels like a complete lack of creative confidence, where it's like, well, we can't get this character back in his original voice actor, but let's write him in anyway because we've got nothing else to do. Like, what else is there in terms of plot? Do we bring back the Cherubs? Do we bring back Dork? Do we deliberate further on the divorce plot line? It's just one of those things where speculating about this show has come to feel, it's just rough. And I don't even know if we're allowed to do it anymore, is the scary thing.
I've seen so...
They couldn't get the voice actor for a character, so they just shouldn't have brought the character back at all. Like, bro, they brought back an old character. Why are they bringing back old characters? That's so cringe, especially because they couldn't even get the voice actor back for that character. I feel like, again, I mentioned this while I was reacting to the episode. I don't think Stryker really did a fantastic job this episode, like, from a character perspective. He was a badass, but I don't really feel like he grew at all as a character. Like, I think Chaz was more characterized in the previous episode than Stryker was in this one. That's on the one hand. But to make your argument, the fact that you're just bringing back old characters for fan service, and they didn't even have the same voice actor, that's like, what?
So many kind of bad excuses for why the show is like it is. I think I saw, like, Vivzy on Twitter say something like, oh, the show is meant to be watched as, like, all one thing when it's finished. And, like, given how, like, lame and meandering these episodes are, I think that would be an even worse way to experience this than just having it every few months.
It also doesn't make much sense when you really think about how episodic some of the entries are. Like, if episodes like Lululand and Spring Broken and Murder Family are not meant to be self-contained in some way, then I think I'm just confused about what the difference between screenplay and narrative is, man, honestly.
I am so curious what they're really complaining about, why they've started disliking this show. If you look at the earlier episodes, the Murder Families, the Lululands, the Spring Broken, as they called them, I feel like you can't dive immediately into a show like this with a fully cohesive plot, with every episode immediately leading into the next episode, one after the other. I think each one needs to have its standalone love of so that people could get into the stories, start getting into the characters, and then once you start having episodes like the Harvest Moon Festival where you meet some backstory for some characters, and then Truth Seekers, which really does a really great job as far as character build up, and then Ozzy's, which is an emotional climax, and then suddenly in season 2 when they get much more into a narratively focused story, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's just how you're writing it, especially on YouTube. Nothing makes sense on YouTube. You might put out an episode and a flop, and then you'll put out the next episode and it'll succeed. They hate that these episodes aren't as contained because each one you have to sort of know the characters before getting into it. That's totally valid. It's totally valid to write a story assuming you sort of know the characters. It's like the complaint is that these episodes are too one-offy, and these episodes are too reliant on you needing to have seen other parts to it.
Yeah, I know. It takes a serious hit to our professionalism. But look, I know we're coming off as mean in this video, but frankly, we've earned the right to just be straight up.
Considering that...
I mean, I don't think you're mean, and I think you have the complete right to an opinion, and I think your take is completely valid if you feel that way. I just don't think it's a good take.
We championed this show for so very long, and it seems that our input, the things that we praised about it, the things we liked about it, are not even the priorities of the writers, and that's fine.
But we don't have to like it.
Yeah, we don't have to like it, and right now it seems like Helluva Boss is...
We don't have to like it, guys! Listen!
...is sort of protected in this bubble where, like, even the slightest amount of criticism towards it earns the ire of a fan base that does not want to hear even, like, genuine, constructive, sincere criticism from...
Dude, you just described every fan base on the planet! I criticize My Hero Academia, I am still getting hate because I made a video saying that Deku from My Hero Academia is the worst shonen protagonist of all time. Every single fan base is gonna have its wackos if you make fun of their show. I think this is a totally valid take. That doesn't make this any different than anything else in the world.
People who, for the most part, would be into it and would like what it was going for. I don't want to name any names because to implicate them in our nonsense would be a great disservice to these people, but there are creators that I respect on Twitter who also feel this hesitancy to even talk about this show because of some of the responses that they've got. And I don't think that's fair because what that leads...
Try shitting on anything in the world. Swag Kage made a tweet literally today saying that Itachi is a better brother to Sasuke than Ace is to Luffy, okay? Pretty innocuous stuff. My man was getting dragged on Twitter, even though, first of all, I think he was right. But he was getting dragged on Twitter for that. Every fan base that you're gonna poke is gonna poke you back. They have no repercussions to just shitting on you for no reason. They'll do it. Why not?
To is genuine critique being lumped in with the irrational haters who are just as extreme as this show's defenders.
We were actually really delighted with the response that the last video had. There were a few bad eggs, as you're going to get with any YouTube video, but on the whole, we found the audience response from the kind of Dark Gentleman fandom and the wider YouTube community to be incredibly measured and mature, and even if you didn't necessarily agree with all the points we had, like, I would genuinely say 95% of the people who engaged directly with the YouTube video did so in a
like a
mature and respectful fashion, which we always appreciate. But I think to kind of cut to the core of what the title of this video is, it doesn't feel like there is any meaningful momentum. It feels like whether this show is described as something that is heavily serialized or heavily episodic...
I told you that was going to be their complaint. I told you their complaint was literally going to be that the first few episodes were episodic and the next few episodes were kind of serialized based on character development and stuff. I think that's such a bad take. You can have both, bro. It's like saying, dude, I watched a couple episodes of Digimon, and in Digimon, some of the episodes, like, they were just, you know, this guy digivolved and that guy digivolved, and it was kind of cringe, but then all of a sudden, a bad guy showed up, and he was an important plot point for, like, an entire season.
Simply becomes fluid based on how someone is criticizing it. It's honestly very similar to the final days of BBC Sherlock fans. The real diehards among the fandom would bend themselves over backwards to be...
The first, like, 2 seasons of Sherlock was some of the best television I've ever seen in my life, and then it really went to shit.
You're like, no, this is why you're wrong. This is why it's actually gonna get good, and why, like, there's great stuff on the horizon, while the show continues to just kind of spin its wheels, indulge in hackish fanfic tropes and maudlin over-the-top melodrama.
Exactly, because there is this platonic ideal of the great Helluva boss episode that could exist. And someday, to the true believers, it inevitably will. And if we live in their reality, it will be too little too late, but you're welcome to continue to true believe.
Are they giving us hope that we get a really good Helluva boss episode? They're enlightened, okay? They're enlightened. They're out. They know, they understand the real world. They've subscribed to AndrewTate.ai world, okay? They got it all. But it's really nice of them to let me hope that there's going to be a good episode coming.
As for us, we were introduced to Stryker as a nuanced character who gave Blitz genuine temptation. Blitz, who was this person who wanted to succeed at all costs, to fight back against the authorities, to really rise up in the world and make his mark. If he had done it Stryker's way, as Stryker was presented in that episode, to use these heaven weapons to take down a Goetia, and all he would have to sacrifice is the person he was closest to, which his ways of being, his methods of interpersonal connection, his prickly nature would have made him lose that relationship anyway. That's the temptation. That was the character arc. But here, Blitz and Stryker don't even meet. Blitz is off.
Honestly, see, that is valid criticism. That is genuinely valid criticism of the episode. That I feel like the characters weren't really fleshed out in a way that they should have been in this episode. I don't feel like there were any really good character moments for anyone aside from the final scene with Stolas.
Off in a plot cul-de-sac where Luna doesn't even get any lines. She's basically not even a character. It almost felt like they were taking her to that office to euthanize her because she basically wasn't even anything.
I would have liked that. That would have been ballsy.
I think that would have actually gotten something out of me. This show desperately needs stakes because it needs stakes or some reason why the characters are doing what they're doing.
They just said they wanted it to go back to serialized episodes. They wanted every episode to be a completely separate, enclosed thing, and now they want stakes? Stakes is literally the opposite of the thing you wanted the show to go back to.
The characterization of Moxie and Millie has gotten so thin that they are now
thin. They just weren't literally not important characters this episode.
Doing each other's bits. In this episode, Millie was the one getting information through conversation with a person, while Moxie was stabbing a bunch of people, even though it's established that Moxie is more of a marksman than he is a melee combatant, and also that Millie has always been the more fighty of the two, and Moxie has been the more diplomatic. They've become such one two-headed character. They're now this soup of character traits.
I totally disagree. I think that was absolutely hilarious. I think the point of their relationship is that they're both making each other better. You know, Moxie is this character with self-doubt, crippling self-doubt, never wanted to fight, never wanted to do any of that stuff. Then you have Moxie, who's always out there, who's always ready to rough people up to get an answer, who's always out there to mess shit up. And because of their relationship and the fact that they improve each other, it lets Millie be the one in this episode that's gonna discuss with the people to get the information, while Moxie is the one that's gonna kick ass. I think that's character development. I think that if anything, that is good writing.
Most of which are Moxie's, because Millie doesn't have much to go on there and never has. And the idea that this is due to some partitioning of gender roles between Spindlehorse properties is the most baffling. Any writer or any person who looks at that as legitimate writing process should understand that is the definition of an excuse. You can't just write a demographic of people poorly because you're focusing on another.
This show
What? I totally missed something like that. I feel like that came out of the blue. Is that something that I'm just not understanding? Was there some crazy gender role drama going on that I just didn't know about at all? But that came out of nowhere. Millie's like the biggest badass in the show. What is the problem with gender roles here? I don't know.
Improve. It just gives you myriad increasingly dumb and bizarre excuses for why you can't criticize it. And I think possibly the stupidest one we've ever received.
What?
I don't know if
You could criticize everything. I'm criticizing you, and I have nothing against you as people, except for the fact that maybe you should put background music in your video, just a little background sound. Take some Undertale soundtrack and slap it behind you to increase the production value a lot. But aside from that,
I don't know if Vivzy ever directly said this, but this is so don't quote me on that, but this is something that fans of the show have reached out to say to us as an excuse. They've said that Vivzy said that Helluva Boss is her show for focusing on male characters, while Has-Been Hotel is their show for focusing on female characters.
What the? Okay. Huh? I'm like, this entire video is like, am I wrong here? Dude, I feel like I'm like on another planet. This criticism is not only all over the place, but I've never heard that before. And even if that is the case, you can do whatever the hell they want. They're making the show.
If that isn't, like, stupid enough on the face of it for you, let's be real. The writing of the Has-Been Hotel pilot, and I would speculate most of the show itself, is gonna be dominated by Angel Dust and Alistair, because they just have more development and lines than any of the female characters.
Yeah, maybe it's like there's no excuse.
There is literally not even episode 1 of Has Been out. Let's not jump the gun. But also, this is like such a nothing burger of a it's her story. She can do whatever the hell she wants. She's not hurting anyone
Whatsoever for just completely underwriting any character and to throw it back specifically to, oh, well, Millie's underwritten because this show doesn't care about women. That's not really the defense you think it is.
That's not really anything at all. I think you're putting words in their mouth and then arguing with them.
Whoever is peddling that. And here's the thing, apart from all of that, the fact that Stolas getting injured for the first time after being, like, nerfed by an MCU tier blessed rope plot device?
When was this show ever about the power scaling? Was this show ever about the power scaling that it upset you that Stolas got beaten in a fight? What are you, a Goku versus Superman fanboy?
And then ending up fully conscious in the hospital, reading Blitz's text messages to give us that flash on screen of, see, you were all crazy for thinking that they didn't address the Aussies drama. Here it is, several episodes later, in a split-second text message. That's the same thing as character development. He's a little bit hurt, but, he'll recover.
There was going to be another episode after Aussies, I think, but there was a reason why they couldn't. I don't remember exactly what the story was there. But this is like such a not it take. The point of him being awake in text message was to show the type of relationship that he had with Blitz, that the entire show Blitz did not respect him as someone. Blitz didn't think he could get hurt, which is why he ended up going into the hospital, and Blitz is like Stolas got hurt? Like, he was, like, taken aback, like, nani? I was out here doing fuck all episode, trying to administer a shot to my daughter, and I didn't actually care that you were in danger, so I didn't actually go help you at all, because I thought you were invincible, and I was taking you for granted the entire time. You actually got hurt? And then you get to see the relationship that they actually had with each other, with the walls of texts that Blitzo was sending him, with the one-word responses that I'm sure so many people can relate to, and you're just kind of, you feel like a relationship is where you are putting all the work into the relationship, and you're always worried that the partner of this relationship is going to drop you at any time. This is with the relationship that they had the whole time because of how Blitz took him for granted. So the point of the text at the end of the episode was to show that Blitz now initiates for the first time sending a text, sorry you're hurt, and still doesn't know what to do. Like, he starts typing and then he leaves him on red because he still doesn't exactly understand the dynamic of the situation. He never realized Stolas was a character that was a hurt, sensitive person. Stolas is like a king, while he's just this little imp running around. He couldn't possibly understand that Stolas also takes L's, that Stolas feels terrible about things, that he has his really tragic life. I really feel like that's exactly what the point of the end of that episode was. It wasn't to write off Ozzy's drama.
And now, like, Stryker has no reason to kill him anyway. Just nebulously bring him back to Stella alive, which he's going to be next to Stella alive because this divorce plotline will never end.
Yeah, I think that really sums it up. The show is wheel spinning on its plots with no real believable progression or changes to the status quo. The characters all feel like they've basically completed their arcs and are just in the middle of Flanderization, where instead of progression, we're just getting backstory. This show has a criminally cringe...
I don't think there was any backstory in this episode.
Or the over-reliance on my dad doesn't believe in me that just feels like the most like bottom tier like Disney Pixar shit.
I don't feel like that was a single plot point in this episode either. Was there a single my dad doesn't believe in me moment in this entire episode?
And you know what? You were spot on in making the seasonal rot comparison, because here's the thing. I have watched episodes of SpongeBob for our other show, SpongeBob Boys, that suck and are worse than any Helluva Boss episode, but they feel worse to me because I give a shit about SpongeBob and Patrick and Mr. Krabs and Squidward. When I watch Helluva Boss now, I just think of how I almost cared about these people.
I don't even know what this criticism is.
I think on a final note, I've got to say, man, I don't want to let you feel the same way. Every time we watch another episode of this,
no one's forcing
opening
you
card
to.
comes up, the for mature audiences only feels like more of a bad joke.
And whoever those mature audiences are, I hope you continue to enjoy the show. Meanwhile, we're going to return to our palace of immaturity, and we'll see the rest of you.
Yeah, when the next episode comes out and we can make another video milking it for views where we bitch about how it fell off. Later, gamers! Yeah, I don't know, chat. Why did you recommend this video to me? It was really, I don't think, on very much point. Again, no hate towards the Dire Gentleman. I think that you can make fun of whatever the hell you want. Whether you like it, you don't like it, or you just want to rile people up, you can hate people if you want to. Go for it. But I did not like this video at all. I thought it was not very good at all, honestly. Out of every review on the planet, you told me to watch this one. Thanks, chat. Love you. Love you guys. Leave a like. Leave a like. Oh, yeah.